Well, I'm so glad that you asked. I feel like this is not talked about enough, and there's so much to be said here. I'm going to try my best to fit it all in one video. First, I want to start off with the fact that this video is not for people who actually have ADHD. People who actually have ADHD respond to the drug in an entirely different way than people who don't have ADHD. People who do have ADHD, Adderall will make them slow down. People often talk about the fact that they can take Adderall and literally go take a nap. So if this drug actually speeds you up, well then this video is for you. For people who actually have ADHD, Adderall and other similar drugs can actually be quite beneficial and actually have been proven to improve brain health and brain function long term. And if you have ADHD and you're abusing the drug or taking it not as prescribed, well then this video is also for you. So in my personal opinion, and after years of studying this, and I realize this might be a controversial statement, but I personally believe that Adderall causes the very issues that it's designed to fix. Before I get into what I like to refer to as the trifecta from hell as far as health goes, I just want to go over some basics first. So Adderall affects the prefrontal cortex and the limbic system in your brain. It can change and alter the chemistry in your brain, and so that is where I'd like to begin. Aside from executive functioning and focus, which is housed in the prefrontal cortex, the prefrontal cortex also houses a number of other extremely important things like working memory, decision-making, impulse control, your speech, and your entire personality, to name a few. And Adderall can affect all of those areas. So Adderall can cause major memory issues. In addition to that, it can cause speech issues. It can cause somebody to develop a stutter or a stammer who didn't otherwise have issues with that prior to taking the drug. And it can actually change your entire personality while you're on the drug. So Adderall can make somebody more aggressive, more emotional, irritable, excitable, more impulsive, and more confrontational. It can give somebody manic-like symptoms, and it can in some cases present itself as almost like bipolar type behavior. If you've ever had an argument with somebody on Adderall, I recommend just walking away, because otherwise you can literally be there for hours. It can cause a person to have a psychotic break and develop psychosis, or in some rare cases develop permanent psychosis. And this is where a person can experience hallucinations, paranoia, and delusions. So basically, too much dopamine or dopamine overload in the brain equals schizophrenia, and too little dopamine in the brain equals Parkinson's disease. So if you've ever had psychosis or come close to psychosis and maybe started to see what other people have commonly referred to as the shadow people, or have heard voices or noises that weren't actually there, well, now you know why. It is so easy to build a tolerance on this medication, and that is why it is so commonly abused. Basically, over time, in long-term use, it starts to feel like it's no longer working, and that's where people start to increase their dosage, or if they reach max dosage, they can start to take it not as prescribed, and or start combining it with caffeine, which is where it starts to get really dangerous. So going back to what I said earlier, that in my personal opinion, Adderall causes the very issues that it was designed to fix, and what I was referring to as the trifecta from hell. Basically, Adderall causes three major side effects that, first of all, directly affect your focus, executive functioning, and energy, which in my opinion keeps you in this constant loop that once you start taking Adderall, you feel like you can no longer function without it, and it makes it extremely difficult to quit the medication for that reason. But in addition to that, those three side effects that I'm about to talk about cause so many other damaging effects, serious damaging effects to your health. And those three side effects to begin with are dehydration, chronic dehydration, sleep deprivation, and appetite suppression. So to start with dehydration, Adderall can cause an increase in your body temperature, an increase in your resting heart rate, and can also cause respiratory changes in the body, which all can lead to dehydration. Furthermore, oftentimes people who are on Adderall often forget to drink water in general. So what can dehydration cause in the body? So dehydration can cause kidney issues, and in some severe cases, kidney failure. It can cause UTIs, imbalance in electrolytes, which can lead to muscle contractions and even seizures, joint and back pain, headaches caused by muscle tension and blood vessels being contracted in the brain. It can cause swelling of the brain. It can cause muscle damage and muscle weakness, fatigue. Basically, if your blood is sluggish due to dehydration, then you will feel sluggish. Keep that in mind. Constipation, diarrhea, digestion issues, tachycardia, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, dry mouth, and tooth decay. To make matters worse with dehydration, if you're combining Adderall with any source of caffeine, which also contributes to dehydration, this is where it gets really dangerous because now you're flirting with the risk of heart attack or stroke. Okay, next up is sleep disturbances and sleep deprivation that Adderall causes. So sleep is the single most important thing, basically, for your health. There is a reason that you need 7 to 8 hours of sleep, and it's not just to feel your best in the morning, it's so that your brain has an opportunity to cleanse itself at night and get rid of the toxins from the day before. And the thing with Adderall is if you take it, you might know what I'm talking about, that oftentimes when you go to bed, you feel tired but wired. There's an afterlife to the pill that exists, and basically your body is exhausted but your mind is still active, and it makes it really difficult to fall into the quality of sleep, the REM sleep that is required for your brain to clean itself. So not getting enough sleep on a consistent basis can cause a number of really scary issues that include, but are certainly not limited to, heart issues and long-term cardiovascular problems such as developing heart disease and or heart attack, high blood pressure that can lead to stroke, depression, diabetes and blood sugar imbalances, hormonal imbalances, cognitive impairment, memory issues, focus and productivity issues or executive functioning issues, higher risk of developing dementia in later years, psychosis, reduced immune functioning, so basically you can get sick easier, faster aging of the brain, and early death. Last but not least, Adderall can cause appetite suppression, which can lead to malnutrition, vital vitamin deficiencies, and metabolic issues. Basically, if you're not eating enough, your body will adapt to the lack of caloric intake, and that is why if you've ever gotten off of Adderall, you can rapidly gain weight right away, which in and of itself can cause major health issues. Which, by the way, please keep in mind that a damaged metabolism or metabolic syndrome in general is extremely difficult and extremely time-consuming to fix. And that is often another reason why people stay on Adderall or feel trapped and like they can't quit Adderall, is because it affects their weight so much. So that is just another reason why it's so important to make sure that you are eating on the medication and that you're eating healthy and consistently. I find it really interesting, people who get bariatric surgery and eat significantly less after the surgery, they're literally prescribed a bariatric multivitamin afterwards. And I find it really fascinating that people can be prescribed Adderall, which directly affects appetite, and it doesn't come along with some sort of multivitamin, or at least recommendations of taking certain vitamins. So in conclusion, I know this video is really long, but hopefully you found it informative and helpful. And I just want to say that medication can be extremely helpful, but it can also be extremely destructive. And yes, Adderall can improve focus and productivity, but at what cost?